Welcome to the Visual Storytelling Podcast. My name is Fred Ranger, and I'm so happy that you're joining us today for another inspirational conversation. Today I have a very special guest, somebody that I've been following for years, literally, and we're only finding the time to talk now. His name is Marcus Lloyd, and Marcus is a prolific photographer based in New York City. He has a variety of different clients all over the planet, as a matter of fact, and he specializes in interiors, travel, and lifestyle. His choice of composition, his use of light, colors, and everything in between transports you right into the destination he visits. And Marcus, first of all, welcome to the show.
Yo, thank you, bro. This is amazing. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. I've been following your work for so long, and I'm so happy that we're chatting now because every time I see one of your photos, I'm like, okay, there's two things happening. The first one is I want to be exactly where you are in that destination, which I guess is good for your clients because that's what they want people to feel. And secondly, is just the way you treat light and the way you capture those scenes. It's very, very unique and also very enticing. So talk to us a bit more before we deep dive into the whole style and everything. But how did you become a photographer in the first place?
Wow. It was kind of out of necessity, to be honest with you. I was doing social media for a couple of different brands around New York, and this was kind of the infancy of Instagram, and this menswear brand, a friend of mine made the connection, and I met with the team, and they wanted to bring me on to run social media for them. And at the very end, the designer asked, was like, well, can you create content for us? And I was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, for sure. Like, no camera, no experience, no nothing. And at that moment, it was like, okay, I just want to book this. I just want to lock this client in because I wanted the money. And from there, I bought like a Canon T1i. And I kind of learned that way. Honestly, it was kind of a necessity. It was out of just sheer wanting to have a client. And from there, I started shooting, and I completely fell in love with photography almost instantly. It was really funny. I remember my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, when I bought that camera, I bought it on Craigslist. I took a train an hour out in Brooklyn to buy a Canon T1i with the 1855 kit lens. And I got back home and her first things were like, I bet you end up becoming a photographer. And I was like, no way. No way I'm going to get that good. And I remember even just the title photographer felt so daunting, and it felt like a title you had to earn truly. And I just felt so intimidated by the idea even becoming that at the time. Like, no, it's not. And then it's just funny to be asked this question and to think about how full circle all of that has become.
Yeah, man, it's quite the journey. So do you remember what was that first project that you had to document? And then you're like, man, this camera thing, I think I might like it.
Yeah, so I feel, because again, my journey with photography, I was shooting a lot of lifestyle menswear stuff for that brand. And it was really nice because it allowed me to shoot kind of with training wheels, and with that allowance to just kind of, I'm doing it under the content creation for this brand. There's not a ton of pressure under myself to put out work. And it allowed me to kind of sharpen my tool just constantly under no pressure. But what I think really shifted for me was around that time, the Canon T1i with the kit lens, I wanted more. And I financially couldn't afford more. I remember, I think the 5D Mark IV was the hottest camera at the time. This is before Fuji. The whole Fuji wave really swept us up, and the whole mirrorless wave kind of came in. I remember it was like the Canon Mark, whatever, and I couldn't afford it. And at that moment in time, I went to film. I could afford I think I grabbed the Pentax K1000 or Spotmatic. And in my head, the way I could process it was, well, at least I can shoot some film and create a look. Since I can't afford the most fanciest camera, at least I can try to create a feeling to my photos. And obviously shooting film is expensive, but like you can get in entry level with a decent, camera, decent kit, for relatively cheap, and you can get to shooting. And I think that was like a pivotal moment for me when I realized, like, wow, I love this.
Yeah, and I guess there's always a moment in photographer's career or early career where you're like, this could be my life. This, I could make a living out of it. And we know it's tough. I mean, it's still tough today, I'm sure, to find the clients, to book the clients, to make money out of it. But at the end of the day, it's kind of aligning a lot of passion together. And if you can make a living out of it, which again might require a bit more creativity than in the past. To your point, in the past, you had to earn that title. It was very complicated to be a photographer. These days, to your point, you buy everybody's a photographer, but not everybody is a good photographer, and not everybody is a photographer that people want to hire at the end of the day. A lot of YouTube photographers out there. Actually, you and me are on YouTube, and sometimes, I don't know for you, but I have dilemmas on being on YouTube because it's becoming an interesting space, and to say the least. And I really think that there's a lot of noise, on YouTube about photography and the quality content. And I would consider your content quality content because I'm really getting something out of it, not just a gear review or whatever the spin that camera brands wants us to talk about. So maybe we talk a bit about that. How was so from photographer to also content creator and educator? How did that came about?
Well, YouTube specifically, it was one of those things where I really wanted to inspire others. I had this feeling of wanting to get on YouTube for years. Like Casey Neistat, there's a couple other people that I really just enjoyed their day in the life vlogging format of just being personable. And then, I don't know about you, but for me, I came across negative feedback and I came across Willem's YouTube. And Willem's YouTube channel really just opened my eyes to like what I would want to share with others. When I would see him going out to Coney Island with his homies, with his friends, just making photos, I knew immediately that's what I wanted to convey. There was nothing like watching one of his episodes. And there's others too, but shouts out to Willem real quick. There was nothing like watching one of his episodes and having that resonating feeling of like, I want to grab my camera and I want to go outside and I want to make photos. That energy I wanted to capture, because to me, that's the essence of what we want to do, right? It's like, I don't want to say this style of photography sucks or this camera brand is not cool or this is the best camera brand. I didn't want to, that to me wasn't appealing because I don't watch that stuff, right? So to me, it was like, if I'm going to make something on this platform, I want it to be the very thing that I would want to watch. And that's kind of how I decided to approach it, like, honestly.
Yeah, and I commend you for it, because it's easy to fall into the quote unquote trap of the algorithm and all this, crazy stuff.
Well, that's the downside. Well, see, that's the thing, right? That's the trade-off. It's like, I won't be as popular, right? That's the trade-off for what I chose, the path that I chose to take it. Because I'm not going that way, I won't reach those algorithm check marks to get that following, to do these Squarespace, all the things you kind of see as like the benchmark of where you want to take a photography YouTube channel. That won't be my thing. And that's it. To me, it's kind of cool though, right? Because it's like, well, maybe I can just be like this cool alternative band, right? Like maybe I'm just Tame Impala to the space, right? Maybe I'm just like this cool, like your favorite band. Like, to me, there's a lot of value in that. And also, I think early on, I noticed with YouTube specifically, there was a real connection that was going on. Daily someone reaches out to me in DMs or messages me saying that it was inspiring, saying that, whether they have questions, they feel comfortable asking me. I've seen the community that comes within it, even with a small channel like myself. And I saw it early on. And from there, I was like, I'm not here to appease or to grab corporate sponsors. I make money through photography already, so I'm not pressured to figure out a way to financially make YouTube work. So for me, I shifted and I was like, this is for the people. Like, this channel is to inspire. Like, if it does, right? If you're into it, that's amazing. I want you to indulge. I want you to enjoy it. I'm gonna keep giving you this. So that was kind of how I decided to approach YouTube.
Yeah, and I really like that vision and that passion put into, again, creating something that's for the people, not for the other photographers or the camera brands. I think that's also something that we see a lot, is that people lose track of who the audience really is. It's probably not photographers, again, unless you're like Gerald London or something like that, where you're hyper technical. And by the way, I also think there is a place for the Geralds Undone of this world, where you know, I watch some of his videos because I'm like, how is this lens performing? And at the end of the day, I think it gets old very rapidly, and then you go back to the inspirational channel. William is one of them. I mean, Matt Day, I think Matt Day found a right balance between being able to make some money with his YouTube channel, and he's a friend of the podcast and a personal friend. But he was able to also infuse some inspiration in there and some videos that has nothing to do with gear and so on and so forth.
You know who else is Stock Easy as well?
I just had him on the show. He was the previous episode, my friend. So you're following Stock Easy with the episodes here.
I listened to the episode this morning. It was good.
Yeah. No, he's very inspirational.
Yeah, very, very, very dope dude. That's one of the homies too. Shouts out Stock Easy, by the way. And for everyone who's listening and you don't know these accounts, please go check out everyone we're saying, because they are amazing photographers.
Yes.
But yeah, man, it's an interesting thing to see like guys like Matt Day and Stock Easy, because I do agree with you. They found a way to be educational, but also be inspirational. They can give you both. And that's what makes those guys really good at what they do, right? And it's also, you know what, one thing I realized, Fred, it's like we all are good at different things. We all have different skill sets that we bring to the table. It's like, just figure out what works best for you and run with that. Like, they are both really good at being good at both of those things. I'm not. I really am not great at trying to be an educator. I can lead by example. I can show you, and I'm an open book. But if you want me to sit down and talk to you about every last thing that's technical about this camera, I'm going to fail you. But again, I don't know if that's what photography is all about anyway, right? Like, if it was all about like the camera and the details of the specs and all that, then I lose. I can't win that game. But I shouldn't play that game on YouTube either. So, you know, it's like, find your lane, find your path, and run with that.
Yeah, it's very good advice. Speaking of, you know, pushing photography forward versus the technicality, your style is very unique, and I think you really found your groove even more recently in the past 2-3 years. So can you talk to us about how, you know, you were able to finally, hopefully, find a style that's really yours, that you can claim, that you can actually, quote unquote, be recognized for?
Yeah, you know, it's quite amazing. And that's a great question to follow what I just said, find your path, because, you know, there is a lot of, I feel like shooting this way, right, which is not the traditional way of getting, I guess, popular on Instagram or YouTube. Like, my approach to photography, the things that I shoot don't lend itself to being the things that are going to get a lot of likes, a lot of engagement. It's not portraiture. I'm not shooting a lot of celebrity. I'm not shooting street stuff in that way. And those tend to be the genres that kind of get pushed forward. So I say that it can be easy to fall into the things that are getting recognized, right? You can see somebody over here or over here, and it's like, wow, okay, they're getting this, they're getting that. And so maybe I should shoot that. I tried my very, very best to keep my head down for the longest, because I loved what I was shooting. I loved it, and I just kind of worked with my head down consistently for years. And, you know, it's funny, I think all photographers strive to have that look, that style, that feel to their thing that separates them from everything else. And one thing I can say is, you almost arrive at this point because people have, like you, other people have mentioned this very thing to me, my style, my look, my photos, they can tell that it's mine, but without seeing my name. And I find that amazing because I always wanted to be that. It's like the fact that the day has come, it's kind of humbling and it's an incredible feeling. But I feel like the only way to get there is to just stick to your thing.
Yeah.
Because there's like, you don't know when that day will hit. You don't know what's going to be, because you keep adding a little bit more, right? You keep sticking to it. And then I feel like you mentioned a couple years ago, you really feel like it really hit a different stride. And it's like, the only thing that I can say that I've been doing differently in the last few years, honestly, is maybe adding specific golden hour light to my photos, right? Being committed to getting up early, shooting the same interiors, shooting the same travel stuff, but now I'm incorporating stunning light into my compositions versus just the normal photo where the sun may be not like, hitting the subject matter or whatever. So I don't know, man. It's like, I truly wanted to have my own look, and now it's here, and I don't even know how I really got here.
Well, that's the beauty of it. This is where it's a confirmation that it's art, not a science. Like this is
Right.
a process. This is something that you.
It's a process. That's
Exactly.
the perfect word.
And I think it was. I'll go back to business for 1 second, but I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk who said you have to be as in love with the process that you are with the result. And I think this is a great example of somebody who dedicated himself to the process. And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes you fail. Most of the time we fail. But at the end of the day, you did see the light. There you go. No pun intended.
Great.
At the end of that tunnel. Yeah. It's
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's too early for those play on words. You're in New York right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
it's just going back, piggybacking off of Gary V. It's really interesting too because I from the very beginning, I took that approach. I was going to put out good work. That was it. Like, do what you can control, and just keep going at that. Like, you can't control who's going to see it. You can't control if you're going to go viral. You can't control, am I going to get a job, or are clients going to see this, or is the engagement? I can't control engagement. I can't control likes. I can't control follows. But what I can control is what I'm doing behind the camera. So if I do that, that's all I can control. Just lock in on that. And that's kind of been my approach, going back to what I said, keep my head down. It's like, if I can make the best photos I can make now, I did my best, right? Like, whether how many likes it gets on Instagram, I can't control that. That's not for me. But yeah, that's kind of been my approach.
Would you say though that and this is a question I always ask to creators, because social media is part of our life, it's part of our ecosystem, and it's kind of a necessity, but everybody has a different point of view on it. And I know you're a user of social media to promote your stuff, to also connect with people, but what is your point of view on, in 2024, photographer and social media for what it's worth?
I love it. And obviously it's a love-hate relationship. We all have our gripes with social, and especially all of us who don't have the huge accounts. It can be frustrating, but again, I decided very, very early on when I wanted to do this that it wasn't going to be about that, right? I can't control that, so I'm not going to get frustrated by the engagement element of it. And the beautiful thing about it, and I do want everyone who's listening to realize this, is that you don't need all of that to win in this game. Like, I've booked incredible jobs. Clients have found me out of nowhere with small followings. So to get caught up in that, to me, seemed like a fool's errand from the very beginning. Seeing from the client standpoint, seeing how clients would find me with a small account or with a decent account. I'm not saying mine's super small, but with a decent account, seeing that they're out there, photo editors are looking. It's their job to look. People are scouting Instagram. They're using these platforms to find you. So just put out the best thing you can. And so that's how I feel about it. I love it. It's blessed my career. I have a career because of social media. Like, it's frustrating sometimes when the algorithm changes and all of a sudden you don't feel like that the photo that you just made that's really beautiful, it doesn't get the love that you hoped it got. But to me, those are separate pieces of the puzzle, right? It's all of it keeps working. And so to me, I appreciate, I'm grateful for it. Like, I wouldn't be here if social media didn't exist. So.
And would you say, like, if you're a photographer that's just starting out, to invest a lot of time in it? Because again, it's kind of the chicken or the egg. You have to have some work out there, and you said it yourself. Photo editors are scouting. It's like the SoundCloud or the Bandcamp for the music industry, right? Instagram and other platforms.
Very true. I mean, absolutely. Like you said, it's a necessary evil in a way. Like, you absolutely get on social media and share. Like, my thing is, take the emotion out of it, right? Share because you want to put your work out there. Think of it almost as simply, each and every day, I just want to present the beautiful things that I make and leave it at that. Don't make it about who liked it, who didn't like it, who's following, how many did I get this week. Forget all of that. You can't control that, so why get caught up and frustrated in that? And you'll find the beautiful gems along the way. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. And over the years, I even thought about leaving social media because comes a point, and I also have a career because of social media, both on the photo side. I mean, the podcast we're doing right now is because of social media. We connected on Instagram, but also as a career, I'm VP of marketing for a music company, and I've always been involved with social media and created the very highly engaging campaigns. But again, it's maybe because I have that other side of the medal that I'm like, wow, this is spending a lot of time on something that is removing human interactions. So I think, to your point, if you find the right balance between using it to share the beautiful things, the beautiful stuff you're up to, and connect with people, it's one way to use it. But let's not forget that, and I think you do have exhibitions and so on and so forth, that real life connections are where it's at. This is where the real passion can be shared and talked about. You can talk about in the comment section all you want, but nothing beats a handshake or somebody looking you in the eye and telling you how he appreciates your work. That's something that I've learned also over the years, that it doesn't replace his human interaction. It adds to the possibility and gives you more choices when it comes to connecting with people.
Absolutely, bro. That's literally it. It adds to it. I've noticed I've since the YouTube channel, right? And this is the beautiful thing about social. This is the bridge. This is how it bridges the gap. Because I have a YouTube channel, now I have people randomly stop me in the streets. And I've been stopped all around the world at this point. And it's so bizarre. And they're like, wait, are you Mark? Do you have a YouTube channel? Or do you shoot at Leica? It's amazing. And like you said, it's such an incredible interaction to have that moment. And I wouldn't have been able to have that moment without these social platforms, right? But there is something remarkable about bringing in that true human element in those interactions into what you're doing.
Yeah, completely agree. Also, having that YouTube channel does push you to think a bit differently about documenting or sharing your content. So how do you usually prepare? Because your videos, again, I want to commend you because your videos are very different than what you see out there. And I always find you in the perfect location. You're on a rooftop in, I don't know, Mexico or something, and it's beautiful out there. So do you plan your video shots just like you do your photos? Or is it just you happen to always be in cool, good looking locations?
So yes and yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm grateful. I do get to shoot a lot of travel, a lot of hospitality that involves hotels. I have a really nice client list that allows me to be in very beautiful places. So yes, they go hand in hand. Planning the shoots, you know what's funny, Fred? Like, I still beat myself up a bit about my YouTube because I don't take video as serious as I want it to be. Like, I feel like my YouTube should be a more high quality production. But ultimately, I'm a photographer and I love making photos, and I see through my camera. And so naturally, when I see something that I want to make, I grab my camera. I don't think about making a video out of it. So a lot of times I end up getting video kind of secondary hand, right? Where it's like, all right, this is beautiful. I love this. I've been taking photos here for the last 3 minutes. Maybe I should get a quick video clip of it, horizontal landscape orientation.
Yeah.
That way I can make it. And that's kind of how I approach it. So I really need to do better.
we all do, my friend. We all do. Every time I post a video, I'm like, will people really like watch that and not comment like this video sucks and the quality is bad? And like, and I try, I'm like you, I'm a photographer at heart, and this is what I know, and this is where I'm comfortable, sharing my stuff. Video, I'm like, I'm just learning this freaking camera, and I'm trying to understand how I'm gonna put it where I can see myself shooting, and then it's awkward because I don't know, I have this self-awareness that people are watching a guy with a camera filming himself with another camera and sometimes talking to himself on the camera. So this is very weird.
Oh, that's tough. That took me the first year. Year, it took a whole year to get out of that, to finally shake off like the eyeballs that kind of naturally come. And that's the thing. Anybody who decides to start a YouTube channel, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you decide to want to do this, your people are going to look at you like you are weird. It is like you have eyes in the back of your head. The moment you decide to put a camera up, and it's so funny because you would think people are so used to it now in 2024.
Nope.
Everyone takes selfies. Everyone's so used to it. But still, when you decide to talk to that camera and you're looking at it, get used to it. People are going to think that you look crazy.
And we probably are talking to a camera in the emptiness of life. I don't know. Like sometimes even when I record, I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I'm talking to a camera.
I try not to think about it. I try to like let that part go, because it's like, there's enough people that I know at this point who would be excited about this episode that I'm making. So for me, it's for them. If I'm weird to you, I'm weird, whatever. Like,
that's it.
If you knew me, you would know I'm a cool guy. So if if this thing made you think I'm a weird lame, then I guess that's what it is, man. Like,
but Marcus, you're so right. You have to keep in mind that this is not for the people that are passing by. This is for an audience that actually happens to be watching your stuff on YouTube. But this is the portion of the show that I know, I mean, for me, it's not about the gear, but it's always about the tools that creators, use in the day-to-day to produce their work. And you and I happen to have a fascination for these little cameras, and I'm showing an M6 and my M10 in the back. You showed I think it's your M10 that you have right there by you, or 240. I forgot which one you shoot, but regardless of the model, what is it?
Wait.
Yeah.
This is the M11P.
What? You upgraded since I
No, Leica sent this.
Aha, there you go.
Yeah, so this isn't mine, but I can't wait to go out and shoot with it later.
Of course. But let's talk about it. I mean, I think you and I were on a similar journey. I mean, you're more well-versed into film than myself, but bit of Fuji, and like a lot of people ended up with Leica in our hands, and then the rest is history. But what's your journey to Leica cameras?
Right. So this is great. I love these conversations, by the way. Started off, like I said, shooting with that Pentax Spotmatic, and that really got me into film. After that, I bought the Konica Hexar AF. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. You still have it, or?
I don't. And honestly, that's the one camera I think I regret the most letting go. Still to this day, I can buy it now, but just that I'm gone, kind of. The M6 is in my life now, but I went from the Konica Hexar AF. From there, I jumped into Fuji, and that's when I started experimenting with the X100F. I think was the one I had, the F. Fell in love with that immediately, and then from there I went to the Leica Q. And then it was over.
We have the same path, my friend. But the one thing I will say, though, is that I don't know why, but there's plenty of us, and maybe it's just because I'm more exposed to it and I talk to people like you, but like Fuji to Leica, 90%, chances of you at one point either wanting a Leica or getting a Leica, like from Sony and other brands. And I know a lot of people, went from other brands to Leica, but the Fuji to Leica path is one that I've heard, a lot.
It's so natural.
Yeah.
I think that was by design for Fuji.
I mean, even the engineers are not shy about it. Like even in events, they're like, yeah, we're big Leica fans and we're trying to design stuff that's a bit more affordable and maybe a little bit larger, mass product.
It's smart. Yeah. It's smart, even though no one can get their hands on it.
Well, that's the thing. Now they're becoming like Leica. Like there's a 3-year wait list for any cameras.
Well, crazy. I think they did it right. I guess this is a good problem to have, right? The demand for that camera is probably higher than any Leica, to be honest. Yeah. Like, maybe the Q is probably the most popular model. Leica camera, yeah. But if you think about the X100, that's dominating the space. So, I mean, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, yeah. Funny thing, I remember putting in like a Fuji X106 or VI, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
When it came out, because I don't know, I said, I miss my X100 and blah blah. So,
do you? I don't think about it.
But look, this is the thing. So since then, I mean, I've invested so much time into shooting my M10R that I adore, and going back to the M6, I kind of like. I bought the M6, shot it like every day, and then went back to digital because film prices. That's one.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I was like, hey, film simulations. I've maybe I dabble into that again. And then yesterday I got an email saying, good news, I'm sending you your X106. And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm over it. I'm good. Like, you know what? I have enough cameras, which is another problem. I guess a lot of us have is like, but maybe I could try the other one. The good news, a bit like you, I get sent some cameras sometimes to test out. So I am waiting for the review unit. But anyways, all that being said, I want to understand, how do you choose to say, hey, you know what? Today's the M6, today's the M10 or M11 or whatever.
M10.
Yeah.
And just for the record, the M11P is a loaner. It's not mine.
Yeah.
Like, the M10 is what I do have. So I shoot with the M10 and the M6 pretty much back and forth.
Yep.
How do I go about it? So this is a great combo. I would say this. I want to shoot film for everything. And over the last year, I've been really pushing that envelope, even with client work. I'm delivering film work over digital work. So I'm really trying to turn my entire workflow lifestyle into film. So to answer that question, the M6 trumps all. The M6 is coming out every single time. Every day I grab the M6. The only time that I'll grab the M10 or the Q, work-related things, low light situations where I just know the M6 is just not really worth my time. It doesn't make sense to shoot film. And it's, you need 6400 ISO in situations like that. I'm wasting my time. That is when the M10 comes out. If I'm shooting restaurant stuff, I'll try to bring both. And because I do love, for me, if I'm shooting like a cocktail, let's say specifically, I'm shooting a beautiful cocktail shot. It's going to look great on digital, but that shot on film, it's like, it's art. And so for me, I'm chasing art. I want it to have a feel. I want everything to have a feel to it. I don't want perfection, right? I don't want perfect photos. So I don't need a ton of megapixels. Matter of fact, I shot with the M8 for the longest time for that very reason, just to show people you don't need megapixels at all to make beautiful work. But for me, it's all M6, M10 if it's dark.
That's a good way to put it. I have the M6 too, and man, this camera, there's something unique, right? I mean, I've held like M5s and M3s and stuff, but I don't know. For me, this is the best camera that was ever built. And it's nothing about the specs. It's literally how it feels in your hand. It's how it operates, the way the shutter, everything about this camera. I think this is when, a company gets to a point where they have the best product that they could ever put in the market. And of course, I understand that the more recent ones, like the recent M6 and the MP, are technically with the viewfinder better and so on and so forth. But I don't know. There's something about the original M6, and me, I have a 1996, I think, M6.
Me too.
Oh, there you go. And is it the silver like me, like that?
I have all black.
Oh, the all black. Yeah. I was trying to find all black, but hey, these things are hard to find for a good price. So do you treat digital? That's a good question. Also, I think a lot of people are asking themselves, do you try to match the film look with your digital cameras, or you have a completely different workflow when it comes to, or actually end product when it comes to the digital files that you treat?
Same thing. I take both files and do the exact same thing with them. I edit everything. Sorry for the purists out there who don't appreciate photographers editing their film photos. I do. Everything gets the same treatment. And to your point, what's very interesting about that? Developing your style and your look lends itself for everything to start to make sense together, film or digital. Sure, the pros out there can definitely tell the difference between a film and a digital photo. And I'm sure even, a novice can tell too, because film has that feel, that texture to it, which is what I'm always going for. But it's what I'm choosing to shoot. Everything is consistent. So everything is going to continue to have its own look and flow to it, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I struggle with myself, and I'm happy that we're having this chat, because my digital file never looked like the film file. And every time I load my trip to New York, where I took both the M10 and back then the M10 and the M6 that I have, and the Portra 400 film that I shot, and man, you'll have to give me maybe a one-on-one session on how to get it as close as I can. I can tell by a distance that those are two different cameras.
Do you shoot 400 at box speed, or do you shoot it at box speed?
Box speed, yeah. What's your recommendation there?
I always shoot at 200. To me, with film specifically, the magic happens in overexposure. I'm not sure. I'm sure you have, but Kyle McDougall, he does film tests. So he'll sit there and put the camera on the tripod, and he'll test out a Ektar Portra, all of them. I think he's done all of them. It's a great resource, y'all. And he shows you each exposure. He'll usually go 4 over or 5 over and 3 under. And I've done this same practice just in every day. The sauce, the beauty, the magic is when you take that 400 speed film and you shoot it at 200, you shoot it at 100, you shoot it at 50.
50, and it can take the highlights even at 50 when it's sunny outside.
It handles so magically, because the thing is, also one other tip I would throw out there: always meter for the shadows every single time. Every single time, and let the highlights do what they want to do, because film just has this magical way of retaining those highlights. And like I said, overexposing it, opening up those shadows even more, it just gives you such it gives that film that look and that sweetness that you always hope for.
Man, I learned that the hard way. I have an entire roll that came out almost black because I was exposing for, center highlights, because I come from digital. I mean, I did at university, we had a dark room and stuff, but that stuff was so far in my head that I'm like, hey, let me protect my highlights, because that's how, especially the M10s, right? I remember my M10 and just crushing the highlights every time, because it was so sensitive to the light. But to your point, film is completely opposite. It's completely different.
The opposite.
Yeah. So.
You have to switch your brain a little bit, because I have that trouble sometimes when I bring both out, because it's like, oh, wait. You're not shooting film. Go crazy with the highlights, save those. You can lift those shadows later in post. But in film, save those shadows immediately, because the last thing you want is those muddy shadows. So when you guys are seeing like those photos where it's like mid gray and those shadows is not detailed, that's when you're dealing with that underexposure in those moments. So if you take that ISO, go down, you've already opened it up that extra stop, and you're saving you're giving your shadows a fighting chance every single time.
Unless you're a grainy day and you like it when it's like,
and you want that. It's all aesthetic. There you
go. Speaking of film, I mean, we did talk about Portra, but is that your preferred film stock, or you're shooting something else.
So yes. So I will say, portrait is the king, always will be. My personal opinion, but there is a new sheriff in town, and it's Ultramax.
Ultramax 200, 400? 400.
Yo, this stuff is nut. It's so beautiful. I'm so surprised. I put out a YouTube episode on it specifically. I love what it does to blues. The blues,
nice.
Greens, and reds. Those three specifically, they sing. Give it a spin. I've shot it in Costa Rica. I've shot it all over, and I have been extremely impressed. Like blown away, honestly.
Well, I know what next
and it's cheap.
Film I'm going. Yeah, it's cheaper than portrait. I mean, there's nothing more expensive except some boutique film that is more expensive than portrait. I was looking at what they call a Pro Pack. It's oh my god, I need to take a lease now to shoot film or something. And when you add do you do your own scanning and stuff, or you go to a lab, or?
I use a lab. Mm-hmm. I'll drop it off, and I'll scan sometimes. I'll scan my medium format stuff.
Yeah.
To me, it's really worth it sometimes. But I also will go to the dark room, which is like, I don't know why I'm pointing as if you can see. But,
somewhere in New York.
yeah, somewhere in Brooklyn. But there's a dark room in my neighborhood, so I'll actually book some time and go into the dark room, which has been an incredible process, by the way. Highly encourage it, man. It's been really eye-opening to touch your photos in that way, to get intimate and to really treat a photo with that much love and respect, and to get those rich colors. That's another thing. If you darkroom print, you get colors that you never thought were possible. Yeah, it's pretty magical.
Yeah, and it's about the art aspect of it, and it's a whole process. So you might find something that you never thought you liked about photography if you only shot digital since the beginning. I'm with Marcus on that one. You should try it just one time, and maybe you find something that reveals up to you. Speaking of being inspired, go ahead, Marcus.
Wait, I was just gonna say, I highly recommend shooting film regardless. You don't have to take it on full time like I am and what I'm trying to preach. But if you're getting into photography, one thing I would personally say is I was able to get so much better. There was no better way to sharpen my sword than shooting film. That consequence, that price that you pay literally every time you press that shutter, really forces you to think about what the hell you're trying to do here.
Yep.
What am I trying to say? What am I trying to make? Why am I taking this photo? And that intentionality will bleed over into your digital work. And so for that, I say still grab a film camera, still shoot some film, push a roll through it. Just for that, just for the reps, just to start to see things in compositions with that intent in mind of like, wow, I only get 8 shots on this camera. I only get 35, 30. You need that a little bit sometimes.
Completely.
I think it just helps the creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a mindset that you can, to your point, transfer not just to film photography, but to all of your photography work.
Right. Because now when I do shoot digital, I turn the back screen. I don't even look. Right. Because I almost need that. I crave that like distance between making it and seeing it, because there's such the reward of getting that roll of film back, getting that, getting your scans back, that I kind of need that even with my digital work, where I don't like to shoot and check and shoot and check. I can't do that.
Well, Marcus is in the market for an M10D, it seems, from what I'm understanding. Because Marcus needs another Leica camera, right? We all need another Leica camera.
Since I need one.
Cool. So we're nearing the end of the show, but I want to hear you on your own inspiration. So where do you go when you want to get inspired? Doesn't have to be necessarily other photographers, but like just art in general, or something that gets you going, that gets your creative juice going.
This is great. So we can start off with photographers, since that's what we are talking about. YouTube is a great resource. I love YouTube. And I do agree with what you were saying earlier. It is getting a bit congested with some of the content and what's being put out. But it just shows you one thing on that, and we'll get into the inspiration. It does show you, though, that like everyone's chasing those numbers, right? This goes back, everyone's trying to be popular. And I'm not in it to be popular. Like, and that's the thing. Like, and maybe this is a message to everyone else. Is like, focus on you, focus on being really good instead of trying to be popular. Those are two different things, and people can feel it, people can sense it, right? You don't need a lot of subscribers for someone like Fred to want to have you on their podcast, right? Yes, he does have people on the podcast that have huge followings on YouTube, but it just shows you if you do good stuff, people will see it. So keep that in mind. All right, so back to inspirations. YouTube, I love guys like Willem, Joe Greer, obviously the Drake of the industry.
The
OG. Matt Day, Kyle, those guys are amazing. Granny Days, shouts out to Granny Days and Jason. Yeah. But then to bring it over into other photographers, I really love photographers. There's a lot of female photographers. I want to shout them out because they're incredibly talented. Photographers like Alice Gow, Pia Riviola, I think is her last name. She's incredible. Lucy Lott, she's incredible. Is there any other? I want to shout out as many women as I can because they're amazing and they don't get enough love. I can't think. But the other thing that I get really, really inspired by is chefs. I love food content. I love things like Chef's Table. I can just sit back and watch like an Anthony Bourdain No Reservation season. I just get so inspired by the way that they think and they move. And interior design, architecture. I always, if you look at my YouTube algorithm, I watch a lot of like the Local Project.
Yes.
Which is, I'm such a sucker for beautiful homes. And just seeing the architecture, I'm so inspired by architects and the way that they think and the way that they can just, to me, that's so brilliant. You can find a plot of land and build an entire house for your family just off of just what's happening. That is genius. And like, I can't get enough of stuff like that. And same with chefs, like the way that they think and create and put out art is basically a digestible good and it's consumed and it's gone. But the way that they sacrifice and think about making food is brilliant to me. Music as well. Love music. I sit back and listen to a lot of interviews. I get inspired by a lot of artists' interviews, specifically musicians, because their journey can tend to be very similar as photographers, but obviously very different fields. And I really enjoy getting other perspectives in creative fields that's not so just photography. I love hearing how everyone else thinks about their own creative path.
Yeah, man, this is a lot of great avenues. I'm a big fan of Anthony Bourdain too. I think his drive is the way he connects with people through food is unique. It's such a sad moment when he passed away that I actually cried because I thought the world was losing a true pirate of art and a true genuine human being who cared about culture, food, connections, music, and all these things that are not corporate BS, like that. All those other honest shows. Pardon me?
It was so honest. His approach to it was so pure. And to me, I always tell people like the coolest guy ever is Anthony Bourdain. You want to be able to be Anthony Bourdain. You want to be able to do highbrow and lowbrow, and be able to walk into both spaces and be that guy in both. You know what I mean? You don't want to be the person that can only eat at white tablecloth dinners, right? And with the fancy silverware. Sure, there's a place, and it would be nice to know how to go in that space and feel comfortable. Yeah. But you also want to be able to go into the hole in wall taco spot down the street, and you want to be able to do all of it. And Anthony showed me that. Like, completely. It's like Yeah, be open to all of this, bro. And I don't know, I took that along with me, man.
I can relate so much, and my dad was a bit of my own Anthony Bourdain, because I saw him in the same night talking to, and he was a musician too and a businessman, and I saw him in the same evening talking to a doctor and really be, at that level, and then talking to a trash can pickup guy and be, super friendly. And so I'm like, okay, so this is life, it doesn't care about the title, whatever. And also being able to relate to other human beings. We all have stories to tell and to listen. So this is where I think we connect both on Anthony Bourdain. So it turned into a inspiring figures cooking type show. So that's great. Hopefully people and photographers will look up Anthony, because there's a lot of content on YouTube, especially about the great stuff he did. His interview with Iggy Pop, I highly recommend it. It was one of my favorite episodes. It was just two dudes that were just punk rockers, rock and rollers, talking about life, and it was so great. Yes. Great. So Marcus, just before we end the show, maybe you can tell people where they can find your work and your upcoming projects.
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram at Marky_Mark13. And then on YouTube, it's just my name, Marcus Lloyd. Check that out if you guys want to just hang out and watch some photos, just hang out and go around the world with me. And what projects am I working? I can't tell you.
Aha. Yes. Maybe you give us a continent where it's going to be happening.
Well, so I will be going to Mexico pretty soon for a really big job.
Perfect. So you'll have to stay tuned, and maybe you come back on the show, Marcus, to tell us all about it.
We got to revisit, because you know what? I wanted to get into something, and we got to do a part 2, because I want to get into photographers and gear and musicians, and like how photographers get so caught up in gear and what they're shooting, and how this is like the only creative space that we do this. Like, when did we ever care about what guitar you use to make the best? Like, what's going on? I
can relate so much. And by the way, I'm a musician too, so I think part 2 is right after this recording, we find time for part 2, because I think this is a great subject. So again, Marcus, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
You've been so generous. It was such a great conversation. And if you want to give this podcast a 5-star review, please do so, listeners, on the Spotify app, the Apple app, and or anywhere you're listening to your podcast. So I've been Fred Ranger. Please be happy, enjoy life, and enjoy your gear. Cheers.